Alright, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a heads up on the Barnhart, which is the same thing as your Columbia 1314, everybody's favorite instrument. I know it is. You can admit it to me. But the basic difference is that the Barnhart is just longer. The terminal shank is just longer, okay? And the reason it's longer is because it's going to allow you to get further back in posterior areas, much more easier than it is with the Columbia 1314. The Columbia 1314 is great. It's great for kids. It's great for younger, teens. It's great. It's good for adults too. But sometimes when you really want to get back to that third molar or that second molar, further, posterior, if it's a big patient with a big arch, then you need some extension, and that's what this does. All right. So how do you find the correct end? I'm going to go here to the lower right on the buckle, and I pick up my instrument, and I'm going to find my shank, and I want my shank to stand up, and then I want the rest of the functional shank to go up and over. Okay. So you can see that this terminal shank is not standing straight up. There's no way that I can make it stand straight up unless I do like this, and then I'm obviously doing something wrong. So that's the incorrect end. So here is the correct end. The terminal shank is standing straight up, and then the rest of the functional shank goes over the tooth. Okay? So, insertion. We've got to make sure that when we insert with a curette, okay, go subgingivally, that we're inserting so that this rounded back part of the instrument, the rounded part of this curette, is what's going into the sulcus. That's what's touching the wall of the sulcus, or the pocket, whereas the face of the instrument is up against the tooth. So when I say you hug the tooth, and some teeth are easier to hug than others. Some surfaces are easier for you to drop the handle. So when you drop the handle, this is what I mean. I mean that here you are in your get ready zone, and so you drop the handle so that you can lead with a toe. And sometimes it doesn't have to be quite this dramatic, but just for purposes of illustration, you go in and then you stand up. Okay? And then I know that I'm going distal surfaces. So when I do my distal surfaces, I'm going to be using my inner cutting edge, okay, which is the one that's up against the tooth, okay? And I want to favor that inner cutting edge by tilting just a tiny little bit so that I get my correct angulation, okay? If I stood it straight up, then I'd be making that a Gracie curette, and the Gracie curette only wants you to use that inner cutting edge, right, the inner part of the blade, because the outside is already area specific for where you're going to be, okay? So again, here's my movement, going up into the distal, to the distal, and I come out, okay, and then I go right back in where I was again, leading with the toe, close as much as I can, stand it up. Now I'm going to be using more of a horizontal stroke to go around this way. And then as I come around to the mesial, some students find it easier to pull out from the straight buckle and go back in. You can do either one. You can go back in like this and then go into do the straight mesials. And then now I'm utilizing my outer cutting edge. Okay, so outer cutting edge on the straight buckle and the mesial, and then inner cutting edge on the distals. That's just a rule of the rule. Okay, on anterior teeth, again, this is probably not one that I would use on anterior teeth, only because it's just kind of long, and I don't need to go that deep on anterior teeth. Typically here in our clinic, we don't work with that periodontally kind of patient that's that periodontally involved that I'm going to need to go in 5 or 6 millimeters on an anterior tooth. But the same thing like you would with your Gracie and 1314, you go in at the midline, and then your handle is parallel. So you go in at the midline like this. My handle is not parallel, but now it's parallel, and now I've established a correct angulation that I need. So my shank is going to be a little bit angled across the face of that instrument. And pivot, pivot. So which cutting edge am I using when I'm doing this one? Am I using an outer or am I using an inner? I'm using an outer, okay? See, this is the outer cutting edge. The outer cutting edge is the one that's further away from the handle. Okay, now I'm going to go the other direction. So I'm going to flip my end, go in here. Okay, and now go in this direction. The handle's parallel, shank over crosses over the face. Now go in that direction again. Now that's my outer. Okay,